Tell when it's actually live. Oh, it's live. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cubist. My name is Bill Corey. I am the Cubist, and we have. I'm kind of excited for tonight. The topic is going to be. I have a feeling a little bit divisive, but I have two really awesome people here to discuss coming in hot. So let's start with the newest member of the co-host rotation of the Cubist Crew, Mr. Eric Buscemi. Hello, Eric. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
Eric's been on the show before as a guest once or twice, if I recall correctly, but as a Punchboard Media alum, it seems only appropriate that we pull him in, especially since I keep referring to Brandon as, let's see, if he's the Aquaman, who are you, Eric?
The Green Arrow?
You're the Green Arrow? Is that even the right universe? I don't remember how that. I'm so not a comic book guy. I have failed at my analogy, whatever. Also joining us, Conor from Inside Up Games. Hello, Conor.
Hey, Bill. How you doing?
I am well. I am cleverly avoiding trying to say your last name until you say it first, because I have a feeling I'm going to say it wrong. Is it McGoey?
It's close enough. It's McGoey, so you got way better than most people do.
Outstanding. I think the first time I read it as something wildly different than that. So I'm excited that I got closer this time. That's excellent. So for those of you that are not familiar with Conor, Conor is the man, the myth, the legend behind Inside Up Games, the publisher of what seems like one of the hot new games out there right now, Summit, right?
That's correct. Summit, the board game. Yeah. Hopefully,
yes.
I hope it's one of the hot games out there.
Well, I know that it's been getting a lot of buzz, and in my personal social media feed, I've seen a couple different Slack channels that have had conversations going about they're curious about the solo and competitive and cooperative modes of play. And so one of the things that we're going to do today after our main topic is we're going to devote a little bit of time at the end of the show to answering specific questions about Summit if people have them. So folks, if you have any questions for Conor specifically about Summit or about his new Kickstarter, which we're going to let him plug as well, and I don't know anything about that, so that you're on your own on that one, Conor. But if you have any questions about anything that Conor is doing, get those questions into the chat, and we will compile the questions as we go, and then we will hit him with all of them near the end of the show. So we also have a giveaway. We have a contest we have to resolve from last week. We are giving away a copy of Not Alone from Stronghold Games, and so we will be doing that giveaway later on in the show to get everybody that entered the contest to stay. I'm not above a little bit of cheap plug, and we have another little giveaway that we're going to do at the end of the show as well. So lots of free stuff today, and lots of fun stuff to talk about. So as always, before we start any of our topic nonsense, let's start with the games that we've played recently. Have you guys played anything that you're excited about?
Yeah, actually, I have. Just this past weekend, I had two buddies in from out of town, old high school friends, and I haven't had much time to play because I've been so busy designing and getting this next Kickstarter going. But they brought over a couple, and one that I loved was Deception: Murder in Hong Kong. It's a fun one. I'm a big fan of Mysterium. Love that game. My wife tells me I talk too much, which is very true. The nice thing about both those games is if I'm behind the screen, then I don't get to talk at all.
It sounds like you and I have the same problem. So for those of you that are not familiar with Deception: Murder in Hong Kong, I think I described it once as the Resistance meets Mysterium. So it's sort of the same vague idea as Mysterium in that there's one silent clue giver that's trying to get people to come up with a specific answer, but there is also a traitor. There's the murderer is amongst the rest of the players. So it's sort of Mysterium with a traitor mechanic. Is that pretty close?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to simplify it for my wife, I just basically said Mysterium and Clue.
Sure. Yeah, that works. That works as well, for sure. All right. So what player count did you end up playing it at?
We only did 5, which is too bad. I mean, it was perfect for warm up and for learning the game and everything like that. But it really made me wish we had a large player count to get in those the extra roles, the eyewitness and the accomplice or something. Those seem like they'd be really cool.
Okay. I was an owner of this game, and I actually ended up gifting it to Captain Bislot's daughter, actually. We've talked about my friend Randy, Captain Buys-a-Lot, on the show a number of times, and his daughter fell in love with the game, and so I gifted it to her, just because I don't tend to get groups. I don't get to the table with groups large enough to make it worth it for me.
Well, that's the awkward thing. I have the same problem with Secret Hitler, which I love as well, is that, and Captain Sonar, they're all great games, but you need that big player count, and once you've invited that many people over, you've eliminated a whole bunch of other great games that you can't play anymore.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Have you had a chance to play this, Eric?
No, I have not played Deception.
Okay. Are you
Captain Sonar? I have played Secret Hitler, though.
Okay. Are you a social deduction guy in general?
No, not really.
Somehow I had a feeling that I knew the answer to that. That's
the audible silence from
this looming sort of kind of look. Yeah, there you go. All right. So, Connor, the Cubist, we have a rating scale of buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it. Now, I think it sounds like you only got a chance to play it once or twice, but based on your first impression, what do you think of this one? Buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it?
I always have caveats to my answers, and I'm bad at telling people to buy any game, including my own. I really suggest everyone plays a game before they buy it. That said, I will buy this game because I enjoy it.
All right, then it's a buy it for you. Think of it as less marching orders for viewers and more of a what do you want to do way of thinking about it. So
yeah, it's on my buy it list.
Very cool. Very cool. For me, and this is one that I think I had a slightly different impression of it, but again, I didn't get the right player counts, and it kind of flopped with my group, so I knew it didn't belong. But it's a brilliant game, especially if you like that style of game. It is really well done.
It was interesting too because, as I mentioned, I talk so much, and my two other buddies who are there are very much. No, who else was it? Two of the three guys who are there are very much the alpha gamer. And my wife was there as well, and she's not an alpha gamer. But it was interesting just to see those different mechanics develop throughout the game, which I really enjoyed. But it's true in that I could see if you had people not willing to voice their opinion, that it could be, a 1 or 2 man show.
Yeah. The good news about games like that with the trader mechanic, though, is that alpha gamers tend to get shushed a little bit right out the gate, if for no other reason than they can't, because there's no reason to necessarily trust anybody. So
it's true. And my wife, she can read me like a book, and she'll tell everyone my tells right away, because I'll either be talking too much or not enough, or I'll do some twitch, and she'll be like, yeah, he's lying. Oh.
Darn it, honey, shut up. Let me get away with one. Nice. Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. So that is, let's see, and that's Gray Fox Games, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, Gray Fox. Okay, very good. So that's Deception, Murder in Hong Kong from Gray Fox. According to Connor, it's a buy it. Very cool.
Yeah, they're putting up some nice stuff, Gray Fox.
I think one of the neat things about the game industry right now is how we have smaller companies that are sort of on the rise and are just hitting it out of the park repeatedly. It's fun to see. Like Renegade currently seems to be sort of the darling at the moment. Like everything they touch turns to gold.
And Roxley too.
Yeah, Roxley's another one for sure. Yeah. Oh man.
And I think Restoration's another one to look out for. All the R ones.
Oh, actually, Restoration, I don't know for some reason.
That's the Rob Davio one. They just put out Stop Thief. They're the ones that are giving love to older board games and putting them out with some newer mechanics.
Yeah, okay, that's right.
The next one they're doing is Downforce.
Okay. Gotcha. I'm really excited to finally see Stop Thief, the new version of it. I didn't back it because the good captain did. So it's one of those where we don't always need to hit everything. There's a few that I need in my collection. Like I definitely backed Brass, speaking of Roxley, because that's one of my all-time favorites. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. All right, Eric, what have you played lately?
Now I'm going to give you this play, not because it super excited me, but because it's just a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So the other day, Saturday, it's just me and the kids said to me, "Oh, let's play a game." So whenever the kids say let's play a game, I'm all in, and
Sure.
I let them pick whatever they want. Sometimes they pick terrible things like Uno or whatever, but sometimes they go down to my shelf and pick something fun. And this time they picked Forbidden Island. Right. So. And I have the variant thing printed up. So I asked, like, what map do you want to play on? And they picked out the one that looks like a skull. So I'm setting it all up. I'm dividing the decks. I'm shuffling, and they're picking out their characters. And in like 15 minutes in, we're all ready to go. And we flip over the first 6 things. And one of the ones that's sinking is Fool's Landing, which is the helicopter pad that you need to win. Right? You see where the story is going?
Yes.
Love it. Love it.
Because I went first because I wanted to go first to show the kids how a turn worked. So I went first, and then I drew the cards, and I didn't draw the sandbags, which will allow you to flip one. And I drew the Water's Rise, and now I'm like, oh, like the odds are like 50% we're about to lose the game. I'm like, oh, let's see. So I flip one card, and it's not it, and I flip the next card, and it's not it. Flip the third card, and the game's over. So, trying to explain to a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old that the game we just spent what seemed like forever to them setting up was over, but I just reset it up.
I was just gonna say
real quick. I didn't even they kept their cards. We're just like, and we're gonna try that again. And the second time we actually did win on normal difficulty. So.
See,
but that was a fun experience.
You're probably a better person than I am, because I probably would have flat out lied to my own children and said, you know what, Daddy screwed up a thing. Hang on a second. And I wouldn't have even said that we lost. I would have been like, nope, cool. I flipped too many cards. I got the wrong thing. Give me a second here, guys. Just hold on. Anybody want a piece of chocolate?
I want them to know that losing is an option. I mean, I grew up in a house where my father never let me beat him at chess until I actually earned it. So that was like 12 years later.
No. I'm fine with losing. I'm not fine with losing from randomosity on turn 1 before anybody's had a chance to do anything.
Hysterical.
Sure.
I put it up on Twitter and I was like, yeah, we just lost on turn 1.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. Very cool. So first off, let's back up a little bit. You were talking about the printed maps and whatever. I don't know anything about this. Is this?
Oh, if you know how the regular game, you set it out and it's like a 5x6 grid, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
It's a boring-ish rectangular grid, but if you go on BGG, you can print out a series of variant maps, which are the same 30 tiles, just laid out in a whole bunch of different ways.
Okay.
One of them looks like the face of a skull. One of them looks like a diamond.
I don't have proof for this, but I feel like, because I saw the same thing, maybe at Essen? No. At one of the conventions, and it was the same idea, but it was printed on the back of a Forbidden Island rulebook, but it was not a U.S. or Canadian made one. So I don't know if that was like a second, third, fifth, 10th printing or whatever it was, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It's super cool.
That's awesome. I bought, so I'm only, go ahead.
I was just going to say, on your rating scale, I would say when my kids ask, it's a play it. Otherwise, it's a forget about it until they ask to play it. Got it.
Okay. See, I own Forbidden Island because it went on a flash sale on Amazon, and I think I picked it up for $11. It has yet to hit the table, and honestly, it's never going to be one of my games that I'm going to grab for unless I have non-gamers that I want to show them, oh, here's what gaming can be like, right? Like, and that would even be a fairly limited thing because I've got a lot of games like that. So I don't know. I need to play it more. I really do. I think I've only played it like once.
I got it a while back, and I actually do enjoy it. There is one tricky thing which they addressed in Forbidden Desert, and that was scaling difficulty for player count.
Yeah,
because you basically need a perfect shuffle in a 2-player game to try to get it properly. Okay. Whereas on the Sandstorm track on Forbidden Desert addresses that for player count.
Yeah, I really like Forbidden Desert. Now I have played that one a bunch. Forbidden Island somehow, I think I missed that. I think my friend Jay was the one that taught me Forbidden Desert, and he also had Forbidden Island. He's like, but I think this one's better. Can we just play this? And I said, yes. Right. So there you go. Very good. Very good. I have not played squat. I was racking my brain trying to think of what I played lately. I played The Colonists a couple weeks ago, but I feel like I've rambled about that nonstop on the show. I know for a fact I talked about that for like 3 weeks in a row when we first relaunched this YouTube show. So I don't want to hammer on that too much. It's still fun. I still love it. It's good. I really like it. I changed how I retired my muffin cups. Does that count as talking about it? Yeah, I don't know.
Did you get the fancy insert for it?
For The Colonist? No, I have spent a lot of effort trying to figure out how I wanted to organize that game. And I've made a couple, I think 2 or 3 trips to Hobby Lobby for specific little bead counter thingies, and I found some that are the perfect size to hold the tiles, the buildings or whatever. They're the perfect width and height. So, and I got them all sorted in there, and then instead of muffin cups, I bought some GMT counter trays. Oh, Ben, good catch. Thank you. I'll get to that in a second. I bought some of the GMT counter trays, and I turned the bank into 2 of those, and that works out just as well. So Ben actually reminded me, I just taught Zaya Legends of a Drift System last week to Ben. Well, actually, Ben had played once before, but I played that, so I could talk about that really fast. All right,
I just learned that at Origins.
Yes, it's so good. So I was teaching my friend Jeff, and Ben, who's in the chat, had played, I think, once before, but said he didn't remember anything. So we played that. We played it with the new expansion, the Embers of a Frozen, Christ, I don't remember the name of it now. The Embers of something, the expansion that just got fulfilled via Kickstarter a couple of weeks ago. And I don't know why I'm blanking on it right now. It's dumb. Anyway, it's the expansion adds some really interesting new variety to the systems, and I like that. There's parts of it that I think are kind of meaningless, but I need to play it more. But I really like Zaya. It's good. Have you guys, you played it at Origins. Connor, have you ever played it?
No.
It is sort of the definition of a sandbox game to me, is that here's a map, here's your spaceship, and you go do stuff. You want to do pick up and deliver and make money, you can do that. You want to load up on weapons and go blow people up, you can do that. If you want to go chase missions for points, you can do that. It really kind of is a true sandbox. I like it. I like it.
Embers of a Forsaken Star.
Embers of a Forsaken Star. There we go. Thank you. I knew it was Embers of a something. I had Frozen stuck in my brain because the expansion adds freeze damage. It adds, there's ice is sort of a theme throughout it. So that's why I was.
2 daughters. You can't even use the word frozen.
Oh yeah, let it go. I will intentionally sing badly so that way YouTube doesn't flag me and end up with the video taken down. There you go. No, Zaya, here's what I'm going to say. Zaya as a base game, I think is a buy it. If you dig the idea of any kind of a sandboxy anything, it's a great game. The expansion, because it's modular, the expansion adds, the biggest things that it adds, I think, are more variability to the hexes and solo and 2-player ability, which is a big deal for me, especially solo. So those are the 2 big adds. There are a couple other little things. There's events, which I think are pretty cool. They kind of spice things up a little bit. The comets that appear are pretty fun. There's gravity wells and all kinds of other weird stuff, but that's just little niggly stuff. There is this economy board that makes cubes theoretically harder or easier to get. That was a non-issue. We actually forgot about it half the time because it was so not a factor. So all in all, I would say that if you love the base game, then the expansion's a no-brainer, but I wouldn't buy both first. I would buy the first one and see if that's a game for you.
There's a lot of content in that base box.
Mm-hmm. It'll definitely take you a number of games before you get bored with it. That's for sure. So, absolutely. All right. Speaking of a number of games, I am really excited for this one. So we're going to dive into our main topic for today, which is coming in hot. So we are shamelessly piggybacking off of a BGG article that I'm hoping my friend Eric will copy and paste into, because I know he has the link like real nearby, or he did a minute ago. He's going to copy and paste this into the chat so that way you guys can see what we're talking about. But basically, Ignacy Trevicek of Portal Games wrote an article that got a lot of traction on BGG, something about eBaying your kid's bike. And basically his idea was that people seem to form very pronounced opinions after only 1 or 2 plays of a game and like to make declarations about the game isn't balanced or this seems overpowered or whatever. And I think his point was that you're not giving the publishers credit for having done their due diligence playtesting wise and whatever. And so this is going to be fun for me because we have media folk in the form of myself and Eric, who are sort of what our job kind of is talking about games. And then we have a publisher, Conor, who has a couple of titles out that I know he's worked really hard on, and I'm sure he's going to have a much different take on this. So I'm kind of geeked for this one, and I have a feeling that we're going to have some differing opinions here.
We have to get one of those little chess clocks going for timing us out how long we can plan for.
No, see, I have the ability to mute people. If you go too long, I'll just turn you off. There you go. So let's start with this. First off, we are specifically talking about, I think the underlying issue here is how much time do you have to spend with a game before you can have a real opinion of it. So let's just kind of go around the table and say, when you play a game, how many times do you need to play it, or how much time do you need with it before you feel like you can form an opinion that you're confident in expressing? You see what I mean? That makes sense?
Yeah.
So I tell you what, we'll let you go first, Conor, as our guest. What do you think?
So I come from the two sides of the design and publishing, and I think it's unfair. Well, it's what we're going to get into, but I think it's unfair for someone to make an opinion right off the bat. I mean, you're allowed to have your first impressions for sure, and that's very important. That being said, the idea that you've immediately got all the nuances of a game in one play, and there's things that are impossible, like your setup. If you have any sort of choice of your setup in a game, starting location, abilities, whatever it might be that you can choose the game, then you're probably not going to have done it properly the first time, and that may influence your entire game and your thought of the game the first time you play it. There's just so many variables in games today that it just seems, it can be a little bit frustrating when you see someone making their opinion quickly, or a negative opinion quickly. That being said, I have been wrong in the past where I've worried about one of my games, seeing someone play it, and thought, oh boy, they're just going to hate it because this and this and this. And talking to them afterwards, they actually loved it for those reasons because it wasn't what they were expecting.
Okay. So is it, do you think, so you made two points there. I'm sorry, let's go around the table first, then we'll come back to digging into specific points. Eric, how about you?
Well, first of all, I think Chad read my mind when he just wrote in the chat, depends on the game. If it's crazy light, it would be much faster than a deeper Euro, because that's definitely, there's super light card games where on the first play I was pretty I think there's a direct relation between how fast I grok a game and how fast I form an opinion of a game. I can get through the first two plays of Keyflower that I played. I really had no idea what I was doing, and I refused to judge it because I knew I was making legal moves, but I also knew I wasn't strategy or cohesive narrative to what I was doing that made any logical sense. I was just fumbling around with pieces until I inevitably lost. So I think once I feel comfortable that I understand what's going on and I see paths to victory, that's when I start to feel like I can opine on a game. That being said, I will give thoughts on a game after a first play. But with the Ignacy article, his specific gripe, and this is definitely a point that's worth making, was with people saying the game was broken or that the balance was wrong after one play. And that as much as I'll take the other side of this argument that people should be able to judge as quickly as they want, I will say you shouldn't go saying a game is broken or that it's imbalanced after one play, because how on earth could you possibly know that? And that's just impossible.
I agree with that for sure. Okay, so my point, I'm going to just weigh in as the third point here, because I agree with parts of what both of you are saying. And Eric, if you could do me a favor while I'm doing this, because I can't multitask worth a darn, if you can find that Ignacy article and post it and paste it in the chat, I would really appreciate it. Thanks.
I'm trying to. It's not letting me for some reason. I tried twice.
Right. Okay. So
it was the link, and here is the.
All right. So my opinion, I think, comes down to this. I spent a long time fancying myself a game designer. I had a couple of my designs bought by companies that ended up going nowhere. So I've had games looked at by various publishers. Nothing has ever been published. So I definitely don't think of myself as a game designer, but I have tried my hand at it. Okay. Every one of my designs ended up flopping at some point in time in my development strategy because I didn't want to put the due diligence in for real, serious, hardcore playtesting. I know that most publishers do that, and I know where I failed on it. So I almost never knee-jerk say that a game is broken. Hi, welcome back, Eric. Eric and Eric's evil twin are now in the call. This is awesome. So I always assume that there is going to be a lot more playtesting behind the scenes than I will ever get plays of the game. If I can get a game to my table 10 times, I am excited at this point. Like if I can get anything played 10 times, period, over the lifespan of my ownership of it, then that's an unmitigated success in my collection. And I don't even know if that's necessarily a matter of me being cult of the new or whatever, as much as it is just I don't get to play enough games. I don't know. Or maybe it's a little bit of both. But as far as balance and that sort of thing goes, I will know if I feel like a game has problems for my play style, but I don't know if I will ever judge the game itself, right? Like there's a difference between me saying this game is not for me and me saying this game is bad. Those are two different things. And I think, so my opinion of this whole topic is that I think it's a linguistic challenge more than anything. I think that we just have people that don't communicate clearly what they're actually talking about. So let me give you a great example. About a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months, I played Lorenzo Magnifico, and I hated it. I was very vocal about how much I hated it. I was actively angry when I played it the first time, and then I played it a second time, and I was less angry, but I still felt like it did things that I didn't like. Now, it is a well-designed game, but it is too mean for my tastes. So that's why I wanted to give it a second play, even though I was literally mad. Like I was, and I don't get angry during board games very often, but I was actively pissed off during that first play. I forced myself to play it a second time, and I recognized, okay, this is an issue with how I feel about the game rather than it being a design thing. And I think that a lot of folks don't have a constructive way of expressing that. Do you guys see what I mean? Does that make sense? Okay. Like they're like, well, this game isn't for me. And what they mean, I think sometimes is I don't understand how this is possible. Not
well, the other thing is that it's the same, sorry, in my opinion, it's the same problem that we have everywhere, is that people are so eager to write into a company and about their dislike or about someone's mistake more than they are when someone goes above and beyond. Yeah. You go somewhere and you get tremendous service. How many people take the time to write an email or send a note to the company or post a good review or whatever, right? Unfortunately, the squeaky wheel gets the views. So the people who want to complain a little bit more or voice a little bit louder, that's usually gets more interest than the people who are just like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, well, and that's human nature, right? Like, I mean, this is a psychological phenomenon that's been extensively covered by professionals time immemorial, is that we focus, because it's sort of a survival instinct thing, that we focus on negatives before positives every time. Like that's just how human beings are, because negatives, even first world problems like whether this is a good board game or not, it triggers that same sort of emotional response, similar to like danger, right? Like we remember things that we feel like have harmed us, even if it's a dumb sort of harm, like this game sucks, like even if the game doesn't suck, that's just how our brains are wired. It's that lizard brain part of things.
Oh, and it's true. And even to jump back and forth a little bit, same idea is when you have like I'm watching as Summit's getting out there and people are starting to finally review and post on it on BGG and stuff. Is I have and for me, quite a few positive reviews, but all it takes is one negative here and there to just deflate you. Like, it doesn't matter, just that one bad review just really sticks in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we all know what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a YouTube show. And I'm very blessed so far. The only people that have commented on the Cubist so far have been pretty positive. Though I took a couple swings on my personal channel at board game stuff, and man, oh man. And well, and we could go down an entire an entire rabbit hole on the just rancid poison that is the internet and people with opinions, right? I mean, that's its own, and I think that's maybe part of this issue too, is that everybody has a voice, everybody has an opinion, and everybody feels like they have the right to share it nowadays, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's, and Eric, you and I, it's hard for us to grump about that, right? Because I mean, that's what we're doing. If we didn't,
I mean, the thing about that is, so I contribute on a weekly podcast. I mean, even at this point, I do it every other week, but I don't get to play that many games where, if let's say I play a few games for the first time, that may be all I get to play over the course of 2 weeks. So am I supposed to not do the podcast, not produce content, or I don't want to lie about, if I didn't enjoy it. I always try and keep it very personal, and I do try and keep it upbeat, because I realize I can be fickly about things that I like. I know I mentioned earlier I don't like co-ops, and I don't really like social deduction, but I recognize there are a ton of people out there that do like them, so I'm not going to say, that Murder in Hong Kong game is terrible. I'm just going to say that was not for me, because those aren't my kinds of games.
I think we get a little bit here on the Cubist, our rating scale: buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it. I think we've had a number of people that have kind of given us some pretty serious side eye for the use of the phrase "burn it," right? Because they feel like we're trying to say this is an objectively bad game. It is not. It's a game that we hate. But we're allowed to hate games, right? That's the other half of this, is that I think that it's important that you allow yourself to dislike things. You just have to be able to recognize that it's a difference between this is bad and I don't like it, right? Like here's a great example. I love Brussels sprouts. They're one of my favorite foods, okay? But if you don't like Brussels sprouts, that's okay, right? It's not, Brussels sprouts are not non-food. They're just food you don't like. I don't know. It's a dumb analogy, but I think that it's just a matter of people don't express the right thing.
Well, here's another aspect of that. I mean, since this, obviously this doesn't apply to Conor. This is Conor's job, but for me and you, this is a hobby to us. We're not getting paid to be here. We're just doing this because we like chatting and hanging.
Some of us are paying to be here, actually.
Oh no! Is it my internet going on?
No, it's Eric.
So.
Oh, and there he goes. Okay, so I want to touch on a couple things while Eric figures out his internet connection. For somebody that lives in New York, you'd think he'd have better internet. I want to talk a little bit about some stuff that's being said in the chat right now. There's a couple folks that have weighed in about whether positive versus negative reviews and opinions on games. And I don't know, I personally am a big fan of honest negative reviews. And the reason that I say that is because I think that it is definitely easier to tear down and build up than build up. But I think it's important that people point out what you might not like about a game as well. If the only reviews you ever read are positive, then a lot of you're going to end up playing stuff you're not going to like. So I enjoy negative reviews as long as they are respectful. I think there's a big difference between that, and we joke all the time. As a matter of fact, next week's episode is going to be a deep dive of El Grande, which I am famous for not liking. So that's part of why we're doing the deep dive, because I already know.
Well, that's what I agree upon. Is my personal opinion is that as a reviewer, it's not. I feel it's not helpful for you to say I hate this game. It's more helpful for you to say this game is not for me for these reasons, or this game made me mad, or even I hated the game because of these reasons. Right? So exactly as Eric was saying, if he hates social deduction games, he hates cooperative games, if he hates, real time, whatever it's going to be, you put all those things in a game, he can hate them. But then someone who's going to listen to that is going to say, well, you know what? I love those things. Maybe I should check out that game. So at least you're getting a reason and not just an opinion for, straight out hating a game.
Yep. As long as there is a because, and that because is based on a certain level of objectivity. Like, here is a thing that I recognize. Like, I'll go back to my Lorenzo Il Magnifico example. What I was able to recognize what I didn't like about that game because it is so tight, and it's it's a very punishing game that doesn't give you it doesn't let you know early on that it is punishing. So some people are going to really dig that. I am not one of those people. Like, I know when I go into a game that it's going to be very punishing or very combative or very take thatty, that is not my style of game. And so I didn't have well-managed expectations in my first play. That's why I was angry at the end of the first play, played it the second time, realized I still didn't like it, but then I was able to diagnose why. And I think that's the thing. Having said all of that, I know it's a good game. It's just not for me.
And it's funny because I'll have that too when I'm playing a game. And there's so many things I can go into. You could be having a bad day. It could be something you ate. It could be whatever it is. But there's been a number of games, well-known games that I've played, and after the first play, being like, "How is this game well liked? Like, this game doesn't seem right." And then at that point, I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it's not the game." So then you give it another try, and you try it about. And most of those games I've come around to appreciating, not loving, but being like, okay, this is why this works. This is what people like about it, and that sort of thing.
Yep, for sure.
Hello again.
Hey, welcome back. You didn't feed the hamsters that run your internet connection again, did you?
No, they're coming on Wednesday. I'm gonna kill whoever shows up at the door. This is ridiculous.
Throw the 4-year-old on the wheel this time. I hear 4-year-olds have a lot of energy. There you go. Okay, so this is another thing that I'm curious about. Okay, Conor, I'm gonna ask you for some real world data if you don't mind when it comes to Summit. How much play testing ballpark did Summit get before you went to press?
That's you know what? That's a good question. I didn't track written answers, but it's gonna be in the hundreds probably.
Okay.
I did extensively in town. I set up 2 different places in town to do it weekly, one at a game store, one at a restaurant bar, so I can attract different crowds. And then I also flew to different cities testing it there as well. To just test it and play it. And that actually brings me up to a point I wanted to mention, which I find interesting from a designer's point of view. And a great tip, and I wish I remember who gave it to me. A great tip I got was to know when to transition from playtest to hosting demos. Because if you get to a point, I'm sure you've gotten to this, where the game's done, it's ready, like it's 99%, 99.9% there, and every game will only ever get that far. No game will be 100%. And you get that far, and then you need to know when to start calling it a demo. Because if you make the mistake of calling it playtest too long, then people go into a playtest with that mentality, and they have their critical glasses on, and they just will rip everything apart. You're like, no, it's set in stone. Like, we don't need to do this. I've already run this course. And the second part being that you also can't be, the mistake I made was you can't be too quick to change stuff.
Yes.
Right. So when I was doing and I'm from a small town in northwestern Ontario. So when I went to the big cities to play test the games, I would get some feedback. And of course, me being like, okay, small fish, big pond, I'm going to take these, I'll redo everything, and I'll figure it out. And I did that with one big mechanic in Summit, and basically tested it all out and brought it back down with this new great idea and play tested it, and the game just broke. Like, it just stopped everything. And then the feedback I got was, well, you should do this and this and this. And I was like, yep, that's how I had it. great. You go back, you remove everything. You're like, oh. So then at that point, I was handing out playtesting questionnaires, and I'm like, okay, unless I see something on there like a dozen times, I'm not changing it because everyone's got an opinion.
Yep. I went to a Protospiel event here in Wisconsin last year, and there are a lot of, you get a lot of game designers that are then playtesting each other's games, right? Like that's the whole idea behind it, is bring your prototype and everybody playtests everybody else's stuff. And I took a couple of prototypes that I had, and I found myself agreeing with everything. I was putting so much weight in these playtesters' opinions of little things that they didn't like. And I never thought of the fact that it might just be something that person doesn't like. It isn't necessarily the game is bad. It's that that person doesn't like this part of that game. And that, and so I was making changes that were maybe playtester dependent, not game dependent, right? Like the game might have been fine, but I was making changes based on this person's opinion of it rather than... And that's hard, right? Because it's always going to be an opinion, and it's always going to be.
And it's funny too, because we'll get into Summit afterwards, but that's something that I have to deal with because every single, even at Origins, when everything was going awesome, every time I teach a game and I'm sitting there watching it, I am nervous. What's someone going to think? Are they going to love it? Are they going to hate it? And it's been enough times now where, like I say, there's been enough times where I'll watch something and I'll hear someone complain about a card, right? Or the way something happened. And I'll politely, I'll listen to them and agree and, explain. So I'm not offending them. But at the same time, I know that if they were on the other side of the action, they'd have been much happier. Right? Yeah. Where the guy across the table from them right now, who's not saying anything, he's pleased as punch because he got the good side of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish there were playtesting robots. I would like there to be I mean, I know that that's ridiculous, but I kind of wish that there was a way that you could, that there was, wouldn't it be nice if there was an objective way to playtest? That's undone.
The thing that really helped me on this latest one too, and it possibly a mistake I made on Summit, is that of those hundreds, say 200, let's say 100 because it's easier. Of 100 playtests, 90% of them were always new players.
Oh yeah,
that's not an effective way of playtesting. The feedback I got from the 10% was way better because you can actually go into it and say, okay, I've addressed this issue. I want you guys to focus on this. Now try to break this mechanic, right? See if this is unbalanced. Whereas you're not just getting people to play the game, you're getting them to focus on something and test it. And that's what I did quite extensively with this next game too, the Vault Assault. Friends Dan and Lynn have been over non-stop playtesting it, and it can get to the point where I say, okay, ignore this, jump to this point, try this. That doesn't work, right? I'm writing on the dice. It doesn't bother them. I'm changing the player mats in front of them. They can just keep going, right? They just, okay, yeah. And then they'll come in the next day. What are we focusing on today? And that feedback is way better than generic feedback.
Yeah, I definitely could see how that would be, because you need people that have seen previous iterations and have the memory of this used to work. Why doesn't this work now? Or here's the thing that worked, or that I liked or didn't like before, and now it's different. Or and that history can be a big deal. All right, so I feel like we're getting a little bit far afield though, because we're talking more about playtesting. So let's kind of jump back to the public opinion side of things now. So Eric, you and I both review games, and I'm using huge sausage finger air quotes here, okay? Because I don't think of myself as a game reviewer all that much. Most of what if I talk about something on the Cubist, I'm usually giving a first impression, because it's usually I played it once or twice and I have an opinion on it and I want to kind of get it out there. I'm very rarely going back. We have our deep dive episodes that we do, which are sort of the long-term, right? I've played this 15 times. Now I have a really fully formed opinion, but it's kind of a different thing. What do you think? How much time do you need to spend with a game before you are comfortable with your opinion on the quality of the game, personally?
At least 3 to 4 games. I mean, I do written reviews, and I don't review something unless I've played it multiple times at different play, assuming the game takes different player counts, at different player counts, assuming it has different ways to play. I try and play it, well, sometimes not every single way, because some games will give you 37 different kind of ways to play it, and that's unrealistic. But I will try and play different modes or different with different abilities or characters. I do try, as long as it keeps being fun, you know. I'll keep playing it.
That's
and yeah, at least 3 or 4 times, sometimes more. I mean, I think the only game I've only played once and reviewed is Exit the Abandoned Cabin, and that's because
it's an escape room. You can't
more
really
than
play
once,
those.
and we can go down a rabbit hole, in my opinion, of how a game you throw in the garbage when you're done just won the Spiel des Jahres, but
that's actually a good point. I kind of do want to talk about that briefly, but we'll come. Let's come back to that near the end. Let's. We're having a hard.
Yes, let's not derail.
Let's not derail yet again. But we absolutely will talk about Spiel des Jahres before the end of the night. Yeah,
it raises an interesting point, though. Sorry to jump in.
No, please.
That I think the advantage to be it podcasters or any sort of media creators is that when they have a review, it's usually fleshed out, and that's where the advantage lies in. I find the reviews that are not helpful are the short reviews, the rating reviews, right? When you have someone say, this game's a 6.
Or buy it, play it, forget it, or burn it.
Yeah, sorry, but does that...
No, I'm kidding.
No, but no one will give that review without an explanation, right? They'll talk about what led to them giving that.
Right.
Right. I mean, if we sat here and listed off games and we just randomly did that, sure, it's the same thing, but it's equivalent to the rating system on BGG.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Right.
I see what you mean.
Whereas BGG should almost have some sort of CAPTCHA trick where, okay, this is your rating. Enter 100 characters on why, because your rating of 6 doesn't explain why. Because the one thing I tried to do with Summit is I tried to design a game that is fun. Right, it's not going to be the heaviest game. It's not going to be. There's a whole bunch of things it's not, but it's going to be a game that's going to be fun. You're going to have a story to tell afterwards, which is why I did why I'm doing cooperative, Bill, for you. It's why I'm doing competitive for Eric. Right, it's so that anyone can pull out the game and have fun playing it. But the thing I learned the hard way too is that even fun is subjective, because although. And I believe, 75% of board gamers will have fun doing something in a game. There's still going to be 25% or more who don't find that fun, who want a thinky game, who if they can max min, find the perfect strategy with no luck involved and win every time, that is fun to them.
Yeah.
So you even finding that perfect, formula for fun doesn't exist.
No, I absolutely agree. I think we're back to we would like robot playtesters and robot players too, so that way we can. Well, and that's the thing, right? Everything about this hobby is so subjective that we're never going to get like a real clean metric. It's just,
and that's exactly. So to jump back, sorry to interrupt. To jump back to Ignacio's comment there, this guy about selling his kid's bike back to eBay. The whole thing there is because he makes an offhand comment about a game being unbalanced. Without any sort of follow-up, right? This is the situation I ran into. This is who I was using. This is what happened. This is the reasons why I think it's unbalanced. At which point someone can have an objective answer to say, well, it's not because this, this. Or maybe you're right, it is because we didn't see this, this, and this, right? It's just not having enough information.
I'm glad we circled back to the article, because when I cut out, we were discussing that. And I have something to add to that. One of the examples given in that article involved the game Cry Havoc, and people who had played it once or twice were saying they were complaining that it wasn't balanced. And I haven't played Cry Havoc. Ignacy argued that if you have 4 experienced players at the table, then the game is balanced. But my counterpoint to that is, I don't know about when you play games, or Bill, when you play games, but when I sit down, it's very rare that it's not at least one person at the table's learning game, which means Cry Havoc's never going to work for me and my play group.
That's it.
And it's not the game's. That's not the game's fault. I mean, chess is a great example of a game where you need balanced players, and it's a classic great game. But if you need 4 players of equal skill level and experience, that's a big hurdle for a designer to ask for people that are cycling through hundreds of games a year in this hobby.
And that's a super interesting point, and I get what you're saying. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I love randomness in my game. Like not complete randomness, but just that little bit of an edge where the experienced player might get a knock and the new player might get a bump, right? Where you might get that, so it's not just you're not being beaten by a chess master, right? Because that's not fun if you sit down across from the guy who's going to beat you like a playtesting robot, right? If you're playing with a computer, they're going to beat you at chess every time. Whereas if you have that little bit of a randomness of, oh no, now a trap door opens up in the chessboard. Ooh, I'm going to do that. Patent pending, right? Where that
I want to play chess with you. This would be great.
You get in touch with the Harry Potter wizard's chess.
There you go.
It's like Funny Bunny from Ravensburger. Funny Bunny and chess put together. But that sort of idea where it almost kind of works as a way of leveling the playing field.
Eric,
that or a good catch-up mechanic.
Eric,
yeah, exactly.
You are singing my song tonight. I have literally just been talking repeatedly about how there are certain games that I adore that I can't ever play right now, that I cannot get to the table because the learning curve is so high and the experience edge is so great that it's never fun for anybody. Because like Dungeon Lords is actually the quintessential example for me. It plays best at 4 players, and it sucks the fewer when you go down from 4. 3 is acceptable, 2 is awful, my humble opinion. B, it's super skill related, right? Like an experienced Dungeon Lords player is going to wipe the floor with a learning player every time because there's so much to grok. I can't ever get to play it. And it sucks because it's one of my all-time favorite games. I cannot get it played. Whereas like Eclipse, I taught you Eclipse at Granite Game Summit, and you had a blast. And
I did.
And it's partially because
and Patrick won that game, and that was his first game.
After calling my girlfriend a terrible name that I can't say on a YouTube show. It was great. But yeah, but I mean that's that game, even though Eclipse is objectively a heavier, more involved game than Dungeon Lords, it is more accessible also because I was able to teach we played a 6-player game with 3 brand new players, myself, my girlfriend, 3 brand new players, and Ruth. Happy birthday, Ruth, by the way.
Played once before.
We played once before and needed a refresher. And we had a great time. Everybody felt like they were in it. Nobody felt like, well, I think somebody felt like they got hosed, but that's a different story for a different day. But I mean, it was accessible. And I think that to me is the mark of a game that can stand the test of time. Is the game not just playable with an awesome group of 4 people that know this game forwards and backwards, but is it also fun and engaging and worthy of your table time when you can play with new players? Because I think that's just the reality of how gaming is in 2017 for a lot of folks. Maybe not everybody. I don't know.
Yeah, a solid regular crowd would be a wonderful thing, but especially for me and my group of friends, we've all got small kids, so anything but regular.
Yeah. And I mean, there are a couple game nights, like there's a game night in Sheboygan, which is a town about 100 miles north of me that I have driven up to in the past. They moved to Monday nights though. So now I can't ever go because I have the show, but they get to play the same guys every week. And so they like played the bejesus out of Terra Mystica when it first came out. And they really were able to dig hardcore into that. And that's great. I'm jealous. I would love to be able to do that. I've never had, even Ben, who's in the chat right now, comes over fairly regularly to play games, but we don't get to play the same game often enough. That's probably my fault because I've always got new stuff to play, but I don't know.
I always make the mistake of pulling out the game and being like, oh yeah, we played this last time. We all know it, right? And then there's that one person, nope, never played it. God damn it.
I have a horror story. I set up a 9-player Eclipse game once. The whole goal was I set it up like a month in advance. I posted links to the rules. I posted links to instructional videos. I said, okay, everybody, we're going to play this. Here is all the stuff. Here's everything you need. Read this. Watch the video. Get this, at least try. And then if I need to brush you up on a couple things you're lost on when it comes game time, that's great. And everybody but one person did that. And that one guy insisted on playing and had never even heard, like, didn't bother reading the rules. And it was, and I was in this weird position where I couldn't not let him play. It was, you know, he was a friend of my wife's best friend.
But everyone there attack him.
Yeah, well, we seriously considered it, so it was bad. Oh, so all right. So Connor, we didn't get very many questions on Summit. Ben asked sort of a baseline of what Summit is about. I think then I posted a link for him to read up on it, so I'm guessing that he probably did that. But I know that you have a Kickstarter launching on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for the next one, it's almost polar opposites to Summit. Summit being a little bit of a, well, literally a heavy game. It's 6 pounds. It's no Gloomhaven, but it's heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a beast.
You could kill a man with it if you needed to. That's all you need to know, right?
Yeah, it's here. It's right here. Oh God. Yeah, that's it there.
Ooh,
so it's a beast.
I like that.
A lot of game.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Vault Assault is going to be, this is a little mock-up box, not a real box.
Okay. And what is it about?
But yeah, it's basically a fun, fast-paced cops and robbers dice game. 2 to 4 players. Takes about 10 to 20 minutes.
Awesome. And that will be going live on Kickstarter, you said Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday morning.
Okay. So if they hit, if they go to Inside Up, is it InsideUpGames.com, I think, right?
Correct.
Okay. Very good. So if you go to InsideUpGames.com, hopefully that'll have a link to the Kickstarter, I'm assuming, come Wednesday, or just keep an eye on Kickstarter, I'm sure.
It better, yeah. It should be good. It's interesting. Ben didn't read the link. Come on, Ben.
Yeah, Ben. Oh, he did. No, he did read the link.
Oh, okay, good.
He did.
Oh, I did. Oh, see, apparently I didn't read his comment, so now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks, Ben. It's yeah, I don't know. It's a.
Yeah, we got you, Ben. We got you. You're good.
I apologize.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's a game that can be played competitive, cooperative, or solo. So depending on what mode you want to play, it's a 2-sided board with different goals and mechanics, obviously. It's a mountain climbing game, but that doesn't sell. So you just tell everyone it's a survival game, which it is. And I actually got a little bit of the idea from Ignacci's Robinson Crusoe.
Robinson Crusoe, yeah. I had a
right, that feeling of the entity, that island wants to kill you and my mountain wants to kill you.
Just, do you find yourself yelling, "We are so screwed" at varying points during the game?
No, actually, my favorite part is because I don't get to play it that much because I spend so much time teaching it. But whenever I do play it, I get killed off all the time. Oh. But when I'm teaching it, I love the point where people will say, "Well, this isn't so bad," which is like the stereotypical movie line of, "Oh, yeah, you said that, didn't you?"
You might as well take off all your clothes with your girlfriend and then run out into the woods alone.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Because right when you say that, it's going to go bad on you. And it'll go bad.
That sounds exactly like Robinson Crusoe. Actually, that's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And so if you go to InsideUpGames.com, you can order Summit. Ben, feel free to go order Summit, the board game. Ben, I want you to go do that, Ben. Yeah, Ben.
Actually, I think look at to be totally honest and fair as well. Is there? I've had some tremendous support from the game steward in the States, and he actually has some of the Kickstarter versions of the game, which was a bundled version. So he's got some there, and actually he's got a pretty good price because of shipping and whatnot. So if you want to look into that, thegamesteward.com if you're in the US. If you're in Canada or around the world, then yeah, check out InsideUpGames.com. To try to look into Summit, or hopefully to come help me on Wednesday for Vault Assault. It's it's a fast-paced dice game. It's got some unique stuff in it with some mosaic building of the dice, so the cops are slowed down somewhat by having to follow the law while the robbers get to mess with them. And actually, I spent the last week and the weekend filming a live-action cops and robbers video.
Oh, Lord.
Fantastic.
Nice.
So even if you don't feel like supporting me or my game, I highly recommend just coming and watch the video because it's great.
Well, first off, of course, we feel like coming and supporting your game, Connor. That's don't say that. All right, do me a favor, Connor. If you would jump into the chat and type out the U.S. person that has copies of Summit, I would really appreciate that, just so that way I've got a thing to copy paste later. Otherwise, I will forget. Very good. Eric, welcome back. Your internet sucks. I hope that your cable company helps you out at some point in the future.
Not every time
frozen again. Eric, your internet is amazing.
Every time I try to put in a web address, it says, "Oops, remove any web addresses and try again."
Oh, okay. Yeah, put it in. If you put it in the Hangout chat, I can copy paste it because I'm a moderator. It's because it's to prevent spammers from messing with stuff. Yeah, Ben was having, or Eric was having the same problem before. Okay, very cool. Well, there we go. thegamesteward.com. That's what it was. I will put that over there so that way people have a thing to click. And I am not at all just saying that specifically for my friend Ben that is sitting in the chat right now. There it is. Very good. Awesome. Conor, thank you so much for joining us today. This is exciting. Oh, we were going to talk about Spiel des Jahres, but I really wanted Eric's opinion on this as well. So it really fast. Did you get a chance to check out who won? So King Domino won the
yeah.
Yep.
Which I've heard a lot about, but again, I saw it being played like crazy at Origin. Didn't have a chance to try it though.
For me, it was a forget it. I bought it and then I immediately resold it. I think it's fine. It's just too light for me. I tend to like heavier games. It is a well designed but too light game for me.
It's interesting, yeah, and I feel like that's also those are the games that win a lot of awards though. The lighter games, the easy to pick up, right? Like games that are easy to teach, easy to learn, that mass market appeal tend to be the ones that win the awards.
Yeah, it's a perfect fit for Spiel des Jahres. It absolutely won. It's a deserving game. It's just not my kind of game. But yeah, and then Eric was grumping about the escape room game.
And we were gonna play. I want to try them. I haven't played any of the what's the other one? Locked or something? Locked and Exit or
Unlock.
So the same night that we played Deception, my buddy had brought that over, but we made the mistake of getting into Time Stories first. And by 4 o'clock in the morning, we called it quits and did not have time to get into it.
Sure. I have never played any of the escape room in a box things. Escape rooms just make me feel real dumb because I feel like I'm bad at that sort of puzzle. Is not my wheelhouse. I need to try more of them. That's all it is. But I need to try that. I do like Time Stories. I enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's funny. Time Stories is actually one of the games that the first time I played it, I was like, really? And I was kind of iffy. But of course, like any good game, you get your butt handed to you the first time. And you're like, all right, let's do this again.
Nice recovery there, Conor. on the bright side, we're actually about to finish an episode that doesn't have the S word in it, so that's exciting. Thank you, Brandon.
Eric's back, so you never know.
Are you sure about that? Because I've cursed every time my internet goes down.
Yeah, but we haven't had
cut out first.
We haven't heard it yet, so we're quickly hitting the Spiel des Jahres, and I was grumping I was pre-grumping for you about Exit winning the Kenner Spiel.
Hey, look. I want to go out there and say I actually liked the experience. I got to do it with my dad, and I'll always remember that me and him did it together, and it was fun. But to me, giving that award to a game is like saying this is a game that should be on everyone's shelf, and if you can only play it once and then it's destroyed, it's not. I know some of the ones are like resettable, and you can like pass them along, like you could do with like a Time Stories, for example. But this one, you and I know there's ways like, oh, if you photocopy this ahead of time and if you use like rewritable marker on it, but then like, are you really enjoying the experience? Or are you trying to like really just save the components for a later? I don't know. It's something about it being destroyed and thrown out afterwards. I just find it irksome.
I haven't even got into any legacy games for the same reason. I don't know if I can bring myself to do it. Even in Time Stories, we haven't broken anything.
This is a whole different topic because I am a huge proponent of legacy games. I love forcing people to tear up a card. That's one of my favorite things in the world. Is I will go out of my way to do something that causes a card to be torn up just so I can hand it to somebody that doesn't want to tear up a card. And make
at Origins during one of the plays, one of the guys was loving the game, and then an event card came up, and he was not loving that event card. And say he didn't believe it should be in any game made after 1990. At which point I said, that's fair, but if you'd like, feel free to rip up that card and make your own legacy version.
Yeah, there you go.
Right?
Oh, boy.
I don't like the legacy games because if I'm going to do something where I'm playing with the same people for 12 weeks in a row, I'm going to want to play an RPG. I came from being an RPG player, so that we stopped when everyone had kids, and now it's like, oh, whoever can get together, we can all play a game because we don't all have to be there. So the idea that now board games you have to be there with the same crowd, I'm like, no, that's the same problem I already had.
You want to know the easy answer to that? Easy answer. It becomes a couples game. It's a couples game. Like Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was my girlfriend Molly and I, and we just sat and mainlined the whole thing. It was great. Fantastic.
Yeah, I guess if you have a legacy game that plays well too, that is a good solution.
Yep, absolutely. Chad, by the way, Chad Roberts in the chat brings up a really good point. If you spend $15 to eat a pizza, you throw the box away. You can spend $15 for the game, then throw it away. Either way, you're consuming the contents. That's a really good way of looking at it. It's just
I'd rather
once.
eat a pizza.
You're consuming it once.
You can't eat that $15 pizza twice. I mean, never mind. I don't want to go there. No, you can't eat the pizza twice. That's not okay.
Yeah, but that's like a movie. All right, so you go and you pay to go see the Spider-Man Homecoming movie, right? And then once you see the movie, you're probably, granted, some people will, but most people aren't going to go to the theater and see it again, right? But and then you accept that as your cost to see the movie. But when I buy a game, I figure I'm going to play it more than once, right?
Here's what I will say, and we're going a little bit far afield, but Kimberly's not here to yell at me this week, so I guess we can go a little long. Here's the one thing I'm going to say. I said earlier in this show that if I can get a game to the table 10 times, it is an unmitigated success. And I have spent way, way more than $15 on games that then hit the table 3 times and then never get played again. If I can spend $15 and get a really awesome evening's entertainment out of it, I don't care.
I'm with you. I bought the Exit game and I played it and I enjoyed it. It's something about it being given that prestigious award.
Okay,
is what is irking me. Not that, you know.
I understand where you're going.
It's also pushing. That's going to push a lot of people. The fact that it's been given that validation, and the fact that Time Stories and Pandemic Legacy were given it before that last year with the nominations, is going to push people to make these more disposable content. Don't do that, Connor.
No.
There's no way. My whole goal of designing Summit was based around the idea that in my family and in my group of friends, I'm the guy who picks the game for game nights. And you have to curate the game for whoever's coming over that night. And I wanted to pick a game that you can play with anyone, right? So I've played the longest, most cutthroat game of Summit, which has a reputation for being a mean game, with my high school buddies. And most of us had died before we even got close to the top of the mountain, never mind coming back down. That being said, I've also played the cooperative version with my 7-year-old daughter. So it's a game that you can play with anyone. And a side note, just because unfortunately people are focusing on how mean you can be in Summit, there's a karma track, and it's a scoring mechanism in the game. It's a resource, one of the many resources you have to manage. And in the game, you score points for the race, as this is the competitive version, but for the race as well as the karma. So yes, it is a game you can be mean in. However, if you are really mean, you won't win. The one problem I'm having lately is that the meanness and the mean stories are the great ones, right? The funny stories to tell. But then everyone keeps hearing about how mean the game is. I keep wanting to say, well, yes, you can be mean. But you can be mean in any game. You can be mean in Catan and screw someone over. You can be mean in Terra Mystica and surround their buildings, right? You can be mean in so many games, and no one focuses on being mean in the other games. This one just has a rating scale and a point scale associated with it. But I just need people to notice that you actually need to be nice to win the game.
Here's what I think. Eric, in 2 weeks, we're going to do, I think you just literally determined the subject for 2 weeks show. And I want you to pencil it in. I want you to be back on the show in 2 weeks, because I think we're going to talk about the idea of the disposable game. And I think that you and I are going to have a battle royal about this, because I think that you are wrong in every conceivable metric of your opinion here. And I love it. This is great.
There's no way. No, I want to be, no, I'm on Eric's side. I want to be his corner man.
Hashtag Team Eric.
Yeah, that's all right. Bring it on. All right. So really fast.
Wait, not fair. Wait, hold on. If that's the case, though, then we all get a mute button. You're not the only one who gets the mute button.
No. This is the guy that pays for the web hosting is the guy that gets the mute button. That's how that works. There you go. All right. Speaking of paying for stuff and web hosting and whatever, we have to do a giveaway really fast, and I'm going to just make this happen right now. We have a copy of Not Alone from Stronghold Games that we teased a giveaway for last week. Anybody that used the hashtag NotAlonePBM on Twitter last week or emailed the Cubist podcast at gmail.com saying that they wanted to be entered got an entry. And I have the die here, so I'm going to roll live and determine a winner, at which point I will contact them and have them contact Punchboard Media, because of course Punchboard Media is where I get the tagline wrong every time. Normally it's Brandon's job. Eric, help me. Punchboard Media,
where we all have a place at the table.
We all bring something to the table, I think is what it is.
See,
even you got it wrong. Excellent. That makes me feel so much better. All right, here we go. So the winner of Not Alone is Jen B. Jen B, I will send you a DM on Twitter and let you know that you won, and then I will kick you an email address that Eric will give me that I can pass along, so you can give Punchboard Media your contact information, and we will get that sent out to you. And of course, Eric didn't hear any of that because his New York internet sucks. So there you go. We're going to have some more giveaways over the next couple of weeks, you guys. So hang in there. Teaser, next week, I will have Raxon codes to give away. So as a matter of fact, my copy of Raxon will be arriving tomorrow. And so I'll have a first impression of it, hopefully by the time we go live next week. So Conor, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope this was awesome. I tell you what, when we do the disposable game conversation in 2 weeks, maybe we'll have you back on and you can be team
Eric. If I'm not back on, it's because he knows we're going to kick his butt.
I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared.
You accidentally forget to invite me.
No, I trust me, it won't be an accident. Conor, people want to find out more about you and the stuff that you do in the board game industry. Where would they look?
Inside Up Games, everything. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can try a carrier pigeon, but you guys have been building that wall on the northern border. Don't go there. Stupid. I feel like at this point you guys should build the wall. That's all I'm saying. We have.
There you go.
Started by Moose and Mounties.
Yes, exactly. InsideUpGames.com is the website, and then Inside Up Games. It's Inside Up Games everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep, am I going to be able to see either of you in person at Gen Con this year?
Not me. I am going to be floating around on a houseboat on Lake Powell, Utah.
That sounds way better.
Yes, I win. That's how that works. I'm taking a week, and we're driving out west, and I'm literally going to be on a houseboat. So,
that's dynamite.
I'm doing BGG instead.
So. Oh, nice. I want to try to do BGG, but I'm at 7 cons this year already. I think the wife will kill me.
BGG. Well, if you don't do BGG, you should go to PAX Unplugged, where I'll be.
Yeah, there you go.
When's PAX again?
Same weekend as BGG.
It's the same, but it's in Philadelphia, which makes it more local to me.
That's right. The guys at Origins are all talking about the fact that they're on the same weekend.
Yeah. Eric, if people wanted to find out more about you and what you do, where would they look, sir?
Also at Inside Up, right?
Apparently not on the internet, where my internet doesn't work. Mostly I hang out on Twitter at Eric Buscemi. I gave up on that little banner thing on the bottom. I figure if I stop using everything on the computer, maybe my connection will stay on, but we'll see. But yeah, also I'm one of the people that founded punchboardmedia.com, and my content can be found there along with 18 other people and possibly soon to be more.
Woohoo! Very good. Very good. Eric, thank you so much for joining the co-host rotation. This is awesome.
I am shocked you're thanking me, considering the debacle that I've had trying to stay as your co-host tonight.
Okay, so just so we're clear, there was 1 week early on in the run when I dropped out, and all of the guests had to run the show for me for the next 45 minutes. So
actually, I think I was on that episode.
Yeah, was that with Tiffany? Yeah, I think you were.
We were all talking. What was it? Essen games, I think.
That was the How Do You Buy Games episode, if I recall.
Oh yeah, the Kickstarter and stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
You guys need to move up to Canada where we have free healthcare and free internet.
I was going to say, for the record, we need to move to Canada, period. I don't think the rest of it is all irrelevant. I'm in Wisconsin, so I'm at least kind of close.
Yeah, it's true. Which explains how you say my first name, too.
Hey, why, Conor?
Well, I'm on a border state, too.
All right, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, the rest of the cheap plugs, you can follow me at Bill Corey Jr. or follow the show at Cubist Podcast. Hit up the cubistpodcast.com. You can support us via Patreon through there. You can shop. There's brand new merch. The hashtag Banana Pants shirt went live today because people seem to like the fact that I use the word banana pants in regular parlance. So we made a shirt. So go check out the website. You can get yourself some Cubist swag. Helps pay the bills. Keeps the lights on here. We appreciate it. And again, Jen, congratulations. We will get your. They go up to my size, Chad. They're pretty big, I think. So I think they go up to like 4 or 5X. So anyway, Jen, we're going to get that game out to you. Pay attention. Next week, we'll have Raxon codes. And here's a hint. We might be giving away a copy of Near and Far next week as well. So stay tuned for that one. The Red Raven hotness is coming. So everybody have a great week. Thanks again, Conor and Eric. You're the best. We will talk to everybody later. Take it easy.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Eric.